Now, since GST eliminate the possibility of cascading effect on the tax burden to the manufacturer, tax burden on the goods is being reduced. And since the tax burden is being reduced through implementation of GST, the cost of production of such goods will become lower. Since cost of production decreases, naturally the demand of that product will get increases, and ultimately it will lead to increasing the production of the goods. It is one of the advantage of GST. Now, GST will boost export and manufacturing activity, generate more employment and thus increase GDP, with gainful employment leading to substantive economic growth. Since GST eliminate the tax burden, cost of production will get decreases. Since cost of production will get decreases, demand of that product will get increases. Since demand is get increases, the production of goods will also increases. On the other hand, since GST eliminate the cascading effect of the tax, and by which manufacturing cost or production cost is get reduced, the exporter can charge lower price for making the sale of that product in abroad. So, in abroad, since the product is being sold at a lower price, the demand in the abroad may also increase. So, by implementation of GST, since the reduction in cost is there, it will increase demand both in the domestic market and also in the abroad. Now, since the demand increases both for domestic tariff area and in abroad, the production of the goods will also increase, and that will create employment opportunity and will generate more GDP, and by that way GST will be helpful for substantive economic growth. So, the advantage of the GST may be summarized as: it removes the tax burden, it removes tax on tax, it increases the business activities by reducing the tax burden, it creates more demand for the goods both in the domestic market and in the abroad, that means in foreign market, and by doing this the manufacturing activity will get increases, it will create the employment opportunity and is helpful for making substantive economic growth in India. Now, here we have an example through which we can understand how the indirect tax was being collected before implementation of GST. Here it is related with service tax and VAT on restaurant bill. Total food bill was rupees 1000. Service charge was there at the rate of 10%. This is not service tax, it was the service charge. That means whenever we are going to the hotel or restaurant and taking foods from there, there will be some sort of service charge due to use of the restaurant facilities of that hotel, and this service charge was at the rate of 10% and it amounts to rupees 100. So total bill comes to 1100. Now first VAT will be there on rupees 1100 at the rate of 14.5%. This was the rate of VAT before implementation of GST for the restaurant, and it comes to 159.5, and total bill comes to 1259.5. Now service tax will be charged at the 40% portion of this total bill, because service tax was charged on the basis of service provided. Here in the restaurant, a total bill amount amounting to rupees 1259.5, including VAT, and excluding VAT it amounts to 1100. Include both sale of goods and services. And before implementation of GST, it was the policy, it was the guideline of the service tax rules that for the restaurant service it is to be deemed that 40% of the total bill is to be taken for providing service and 60% is to be taken for supply of goods. Now here the total bill was 1100, 40% of which is related with service, that means 440. 1100 into 40%, that means rupees 440 is related with providing of service, and for which service tax is to be implemented at the rate of 14%, and which comes to 61.6. Now on service tax there was Swachh Bharat cess at the rate of 0.5% and Kisan Kalyan cess at the rate of 0.5%, and in total the total bill comes to 1325. Now this was the mechanism by which restaurants were preparing bill and government were collecting tax before implementation of GST. Now after implementation of GST, here all these tax, that means VAT, service tax, Swachh Bharat cess, Krishi Kalyan cess, all these tax are clubbed under the head of GST. And now the rate of GST for restaurant service is 5%, of which 2.5% is collected through CGST and 2.5% is collected through SGST. Naturally, the tax burden is being reduced after implementation of GST in respect of restaurant services, in respect of restaurant bill.